find
Walter,
it.
pick it up there. Answer the question again.
Yeah, well, let me read from 1846, a theologian, William G.T. Shedd, still being reprinted by Presbyterians and others. He taught at Andover for many, many years. He says, respecting the length of the 6 creative days, speaking generally, there are some differences of views between the patristic and the medieval exegesis. But the patristics and medieval make them to be long periods, not days of 24 hours. The later interpretation has prevailed only in the modern church. Augustine teaches in the literal interpretation of Genesis, Book 4, Section 27, that the length of the 6 days is to be determined by the length of our is not to be determined, by the length of our weekdays. Our 7 days, he said, resemble the 7 days of the account of creation.
Yeah,
I'm
not surprised.
G.T. Shedd quoting Augustine. And I have 6 other references there in Book 5, Book 4, and Book 7 of the literal interpretation of Genesis, where indeed Augustine makes the same point.
Let me push Ken the other way, okay? Is that day 1, day 2, day 3, you've already assumed that it means 24 hours.
No, I haven't assumed that at all. I look at the word yom in context. By the way, I look at the scholarship.
So what you're saying is
on
a 24-hour day, when you're talking about the 4th day then, you're assuming that the 24-hour day was made on a 24-hour day. Kaiser's point is that on this thing that's called a day, he made days. And so that you can't come back and say, I already know how he's using it before we get there.
No, the point is, all Scripture is inspired by God.
I think we all agree on that one.
And God is, I know we all agree on that. God is using human authors, but He's inspiring them to
We
write
all agree
down
on that one.
for us, so that, you know, we talk about the perspicuity of Scripture. I'm a good example of that. An average person who comes to Scripture and looks at
here's my problem, Ken, is that if you take a New Testament example, you got Jesus talking, and he says to Peter, do you love me? Okay? Now, the average person says, well, shoot, I know what love means. Okay, but you go a little further and you find out that Greek can have erotic love, eros, and it can have agape, John 3:16 love. It can have friendship,